Y'all remember Anthem? Because I almost forgot the game existed. But there is an overhaul being worked on as we speak. Bioware is working on what they're dubbing either Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next, and they've recently taken to Twitter and their official website to provide an update on the current state of the Overhaul's development. So here's a tweet from BioWare that reads, an update on Anthem from Christian Daly. And then the Anthem official Twitter page retweeted this by saying, hey freelancers, check out your first status report by studio director Christian Daly for what's coming next on Anthem. And Christian Daly is, for those who don't know, studio director of BioWare Austin, which Edmonton, the core main sort of A-team of BioWare, has handed Anthem to. So, yeah, they're sort of the main guys behind Anthem now. They're the ones responsible for this overhaul. And this is Christian Daly at home amidst the ongoing pandemic. And here's the update that he provided on May 15th, 2020, so a couple of days ago as of the recording of this video. It reads right here, hi all, my name is Christian and I'm the studio director for the BioWare Austin office that is leading the production of what we are exploring next for Anthem. Nice to meet you. Now the official title of this overhaul is unknown, but the fact that Next is capitalized here and the fact that the name Next has been thrown around in the rumor mill and in reports by, like Jason Schreier, who investigated this whole matter and heard rumors about this before the overhaul was officially announced. It would seem as though there's a strong possibility that this overhaul could very well be called Anthem Next, or at the very least, the code name might be Anthem Next. Either way, prior to this role, I was the franchise development director for the Anthem live service, helping guide the development of our post-launch updates, which focused on stabilizing and improving performance of the service. Our first Cataclysm, Season of Skulls, Ice Tide, and into the most recent update with 1.7. Well, cannot say that BioWare did a particularly good job there. Anthem, stability-wise, performance-wise, and fun factor-wise, the game falls short on all those fronts. The blog post continues, and in addition, I have been silently stalking you over the past year on Reddit, EA forums, Twitter, etc., taking in all the feedback you have been graciously providing and adding it to the giant cookbook of things we are experimenting with in Anthem. So the fact that he's still touting experimenting with things seems to suggest that they are still more in the early stages of development for this overhaul, that we might not see this for a while, and that they still don't have things nailed down concretely. Christian then talks about how he's working remotely from home like many game development studios are amidst the pandemic. And then he goes ahead and details exactly what's going on with Anthem, in what stage of development they are, and sort of how far along they are. It reads right here, incubation, aka prototyping, so still in the prototyping stages. The Anthem incubation team has kicked off and we are starting to validate our design hypotheses. Incubation is a term we use internally. It essentially means we are going back and experimenting prototyping to improve on the areas where we believe we fell short and to leverage everything that you love currently about Anthem. Areas where Anthem fell short. That's pretty much almost everything about the game. So there's a lot of experimenting and prototyping to do. The only thing that really I felt worked well was the flight mechanics, and the potential behind that was, I think, substantial, but they sort of botched everything else. They sort of botched the system surrounding the core mechanics that were solid, and that's where a lot of the problems surrounding this game came from. He proceeds to explain that we're a small team, about 30-ish, earning our way forward as we set out to hit our first major milestone goals. So 30 people is a pretty modest team size, especially for a large-scale game like this, but at the same time, Anthem's foundation is sort of already built. They just have to take what's there and enhance it. It's sort of them having to remix certain systems, add new elements, but it's not like they're starting from scratch. So maybe a 30-ish size team isn't such a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing to have less cooks in the kitchen so that there's more focus with the vision of the game. And that's one of the things that Anthem lacked. There was just a lack of strong leadership with someone at the helm to decide exactly what the vision for this game is, exactly what to do, exactly what decisions to go with. and so they stayed stuck in pre-production for a while. Hopefully with the smaller team, they can mitigate that issue. Christian doesn't mince words here as far as time frame goes. He says, spoiler, this is going to be a longer process, and yes, the team is small, but the whole point is to take our time and go back to the drawing board. And a small team gives us the agility a larger one can't afford. So again, ultimately, a smaller, more sort of mid-sized team of 30 might ultimately be a good thing for this development environment. We really want this experience to be different for the team and our players, but we know we have some tough challenges to tackle. We want to include you as we go and be open and honest with where we are at and what the expectations are with where we are going. So transparency is always a good thing, but this is something that Bioware has touted, saying we're going to be open with communication and we're going to take your feedback, but communication and feedback taking have both across the board been poor throughout Anthem's launch period and beyond. Hopefully that will change, but it's hard to take them at their word given past instances of them having said something similar and not really having carried that through. Christian then cautions that the reality is you will see things that look awesome but end up on the cutting board floor, or things that you might think suck that you feel we are spending too much time on, but in the spirit of experimentation, this is all okay. We really want to provide you all the transparency we can because of your passion and interest in Anthem. But with that comes seeing how the sausage is made, which is not always pretty, by the way. So it sounds like we can expect a frequent amount of development updates with them kind of showing things to people, to the public, as far as what they're working on and what they're changing and what systems and mechanics they're implementing. And you know, maybe they're going to make this a more back and forth situation where they're developing with the players, with their feedback in mind as they go along, rather than kind of surprise launching the Anthem Overhaul out of the blue. And if that's the strategy, that's certainly an interesting approach and something that could ultimately be beneficial. So we'll see how they handle that. And I can appreciate them warning that they're going to throw some things at the wall and not everything may stick, and that this is an aspect we might see as they provide updates of the Overhaul's development. So those are all things that are good to know. Speaking to that effect of more open conversation, Christian added, we also want to start putting together some regular comms out to everyone to talk about these changes and our progress. This blog is one example, but we also want to include you in more of the day-to-day and hopefully get you some real interactions with the team. These updates could come in the form of an ad hoc live stream or some cool concept art posted on social media, or the occasional feed of me curled up in a ball crying in the corner. We'll get back to everyone on what our update cadence will look like soon as we start looping you into our progress. So this proposal sounds very sort of indie inspired. I've seen a number of sort of up and coming indie projects work very closely with the community and regularly providing development and progress updates while taking the feedback in mind and sort of having this symbiotic relationship that's worked out well for them. So if this is the approach they're taking, where it is sort of about that, just let's put out there what we're doing and shift course as the feedback comes in, I think that could be something that Anthem really needs right now. The AAA landscape tends to be very secretive with their products because it's all about how they market things to bring in the most amount of cash with, you know, the most amount of sales. But this approach of let's just put out there what we're doing as we go along and just try to get as much feedback as possible. It served a lot of game projects well, and it could certainly serve Anthem well. Christian closes things off with, we hope this finds you well. We have a great studio here in Austin working on Anthem and other cool projects. Shout out to the SOTOR team. I'm proud of the folks I spend time with, and in this physical distancing new world, the folks I spend time on Zoom with. I'm not here to overhype anything, but we do believe the changes we are making are the right ones, and we hope you think so as well. But you might not, and that is cool too. It is the constructive criticism and feedback we need in either direction. So I do like the approach to this blog post where it actually feels like it was written by a human being rather than some robot or a lawyer. This actually feels like it's coming straight from Christian, who is setting the right expectations, saying that some of the stuff we're experimenting and prototyping with might stick, some of it might not. Him saying that we're not trying to overhype anything, and saying that if you don't find what we show you to be, you know, ideal, that's okay, and that this is the kind of feedback they're looking for, you know, feedback from either direction. It does at the very least feel like Christian is saying all the right things, though saying the right things is easy. Actually carrying that through, executing what you said, and, actually doing the good things you claim you will do, that's the difficult part, and that's the wait and see aspect of this whole situation. And I'm sort of more pessimistic due to BioWare's recent history. But, obviously, while I'm expecting the worst, I'm hoping for the best. I'm certainly hoping BioWare can somehow pull this off and make a comeback with this title. So that's pretty much all of the important bits of information surrounding this update. While there's not much information about the overhaul itself, this does set some expectations in terms of how they're going to approach communication from here on out, and sort of when we can expect to hear an update and how long it might take before we really see this overhaul in action, or before we even get our hands on it. It's still a long ways off. They're still just prototyping and experimenting. And I have to wonder whether, by then it'll be too little too late. I mean, it's been so long since the game's launch, and so many other games have come out, and people only have so much time. And Anthem's gonna have to give people a really good reason to come back to this troubled video game release. They're gonna have to make this game look so good and actually play so much better, and they're gonna have to convey that so well if they wish to bring people back, because right now nobody's watching this game on live streams, and nobody's streaming the title, nobody's really playing the game either. The game is in life support, and so of course there's no reason to come back to it. And yeah, they're gonna have to make a strong case once they're ready to show what they've been working on off to the public. It's truly gonna have to look like night and day as far as overhauls go, from the base game to, Anthem next. Now, for those who are curious about the general timeline of this Anthem overhaul, how long we've known about it, and what we do know about it so far, well, hints of this overhaul began back in September 5th, 2019 via this blog post by Casey Hudson, in which he said, "We have plans for those more fundamental improvements, but they'll take time. While the team works towards the longer-term vision of the game, they will also continue to deliver updates to features and content." And then a few days later, on September 17th, 2019, then head of live services, Chad Robertson, posted this blog post with a headline, "What is next for Anthem?" And he noted right here, "We hear your concerns on the core issues in Anthem and are acting on it. Those systems require a more thorough review and reworking versus quick fixes. We have got a team working on that now, and early results are promising. In order to address these long-term, long-range plans, we are moving away from the act structure for updates." So this was the day when BioWare officially nuked Anthem's roadmap and decided that they're going to sort of hunker down and go incognito for a bit so they can work on a more long-term reworking. Fast forward to November 2019, and Jason Schreier would post an article in which he relayed that sources he's spoken to have confirmed that there are plans for an overhaul for Anthem. He talked about how for the last few months, BioWare and parent company EA have been planning an overhaul of the online shooter. This article being published in November for the last few months would mean, mid-2019 is when they started contemplating this stuff. Some call it Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next. Jason then emphasized how there's no clear timeline for the Anthem Next project just yet. In fact, from what I've heard, the developers at BioWare haven't even decided how it'll be distributed. And then here it is relayed that most of Anthem's biggest systems, its mission structure, its loot, its world, will change drastically. But developers have not yet figured out exactly what that'll look like. They're even considering releasing Anthem Next as a brand new game, although those who work on the project said that could take a lot of forms. So just back then in November 2019, many elements of the overhaul were still unknown. And I surmise that BioWare has kind of decided on some things since then. It's been a number of months. It's been 7 months since we got this article right here. So they've been working on this overhaul for at least 7 months, probably more. And yet they're still in pre-production, or they're still experimenting and prototyping. So it looks like this could be a 2-year endeavor. This may be one of those projects we'll see launch next year. And, taking all that time might be what is necessary to kind of revive this troubled title. I hope this isn't a case of them being trapped in another development hell, because it seems to be a lot of time that has gone by for them to still be in experimenting stages. But I don't know. Now, back in November 2019, nothing about an overhaul was confirmed. But given Jason's history, a lot of people trusted this would be true, and indeed, fast forward a few months later to February 10th, 2020, and Anthem confirmed they are, in fact, overhauling Anthem, stating, "We have also heard your feedback that Anthem needs a more satisfying loot experience, better long-term progression, and a more fulfilling endgame, so we recognize that there is still more fundamental work to be done to bring out the full potential of the experience, and it will require a more substantial reinvention than an update or expansion." So, substantial reinvention being the key words here. Over the coming months, we will be focusing on a longer-term redesign of the experience, specifically working to reinvent the core gameplay loop with clear goals, motivating challenges, and progression with meaningful rewards, while preserving the fun of flying and fighting in a vast science fantasy setting. And to do that properly, we'll be doing something we'd like to have done more of the first time around, giving a focus team the time to test and iterate, focusing on gameplay first. But I'll say again, while they're saying all of the right things, that's very easy for companies to do, so I'll only really buy any of this when I start seeing results. I wish BioWare the best, you know? I don't want to see games flop like this, but higher-ups' sort of baffling decisions and their lack of foresight and just a general bad mindset and bad management style, all of these factors contributed to Anthem's demise. And so hopefully BioWare will not repeat history in that regard, and that this overhaul will truly be worth the wait, because given how much interest has been lost, they're really going to have to pull something incredible to bring people back. But that's just one man's take on all of this. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions and hopes and dreams are as far as Anthem Next is concerned. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.